Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Wednesday morning. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, lots to talk about. We're going to look back at our midseason stock draft, see how we did. We're going to talk about who has the most on the line on Monday to sort of change our opinion of them heading into the offseason or a second round of the playoffs. But, Zach, how are you?
Doing well. Excited for the show. Looking forward to talking more Eagles Bucks. The reason I had that quizzical look on my face.
What's confusing you?
I was trying to figure out who that player was. It was Jordan Davis.
It certainly was.
Yes, but at the minute I saw it, I couldn't guess it. And it brings to mind, I haven't shared this on the pod, something you might appreciate. In the Eagles auditorium, they have signage about...
You know what? Every time, Zach, with that.
They have signage
so rude.
About forcing turnovers and avoiding turnovers, right? And so like the grip you do and the techniques you do.
Yes. And
there's one player who none of us could figure out.
I thought it was Patrick Johnson.
No. I'll tell you who it was for a second, okay? So it was it was a game against the Jets. The Eagles were in black pants and a white top. So therefore, it's from the 2021 season, okay? And we had to go through the play-by-play to figure out exactly who else we couldn't get. The player is Ryan Kerrigan.
Are you sure?
We're positive. It's Ryan Kerrigan. And yeah, the skin complexion, we were trying to figure that part out. Like the way, I guess
interesting. You don't usually dip into race talk, so this is interesting.
Well, dipping in the race talk, we were trying to figure out who it was, and we had to go through the play-by-play to find out the tackle.
Did this happen a second
on that
time?
Player. Yes, it happened a second time because
okay.
we were all quizzing each other. Who is that? And I did bring up Patrick Johnson, but Patrick Johnson was not involved in a tackle on that player. And the player who was
because
Ryan
I think
Kerrigan.
we did this, and there was a preseason game when Patrick Johnson was involved in forcing a fumble.
But they were not wearing black pants in the preseason.
Interesting.
So it was Ryan Kerrigan.
Wow. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. A tough night for you, huh?
I'll share with the audience.
Why not?
Sure. The power was out, as it was for, I believe, over 120,000 people in the Philadelphia area.
Wow.
So I can empathize. It was out for 11 plus hours. And
I remember this happening when I was a kid, and there is a bit of a novelty to it if it happens early enough. You light a candle, you play some games.
Yes.
It's like you feel like you're living in the 1800s, but if you're a man who needs to be productive at all hours of the day, it's not ideal.
Well, it's not. I was trying to write a story. Since coming to PHLY, my writing time is at night because our shows are during the day, right? So after the kids went to sleep, I was starting on a story and I was transcribing and setting up the story, and then all of a sudden, suddenly, at a little before 9 o'clock, it seemed, boom, the power went out. And that's fine. Power goes out from time to time. Figured, all right, it'll be an hour, might be 2. And I'm sitting there, and then suddenly you're thinking, okay, how cold is it going to get tonight?
Yeah.
Right? That's one thing. Then there are, is there stuff in the refrigerator that's going to go bad? Because
the thing you got to do is you don't open the refrigerator. You got to keep it closed.
Exactly. Yeah. So we were going through that, and then it was just like, well, go to sleep and you'll wake up and the power's on. But then I typically go to sleep watching television or reading.
West Wing episodes.
And I could not do either one. My iPad wasn't charged. My Kindle wasn't charged. So at that point, that's fine. I'll just go to sleep. But I was not falling asleep, and I kept going on my phone to check Pico's app to see how many people were out. Where they have a map.
You could spring out of bed and finish that story.
I was hoping to.
Yeah.
Yes, I was hoping to have something online when people awoke this morning, and I couldn't. It's not like I could go to a coffee shop at that hour either. So, anyways, but it came on this morning around 7:40.
Should have came over to my house.
I didn't know I was invited.
Yeah. You didn't ask.
At 7:40, it came back on and was able to get here. Although the drive here, I mean, the term apocalyptic might be a little too much. But no, I mean there were fallen trees and branches everywhere. So
Treacherous.
Yeah, it just makes you feel good or it makes you feel fortunate that the power was all that we had to worry about, not something significant. And my thoughts are with those who were more affected by the storm last night.
Okay.
Everything good in the Wolf household last night?
All good.
Power stayed on?
Power stayed on.
Okay.
A lot of rain, but
how was the wind?
Windy.
No, was it howling? Was it?
I wouldn't say it was howling. Okay. Yeah. I think it was just a lot of rain.
I used to have problems with leaks when I lived in the city.
Okay.
And so every time it rained.
Very generous of me to not make more of that.
I mean, the way your mind works, one would typically think that when you are talking about rain.
In the sentence, I used to have problem with leaks.
When you're in the context.
Could be taken many different ways. Maybe it's you were allergic to the food leaks. Okay. Could be that.
In the context of it raining, I used to have so what I was saying is every time it rained, I would shudder at the thought of.
I remember this. You did have a leak problem.
Yes, and
a leaky roof.
Yeah. Yep. But all good now.
Okay. All right, Zach. We're in the playoffs. Let's talk about the Eagles being in the playoffs.
Best thing you said this week.
We'll hear from coordinators today, so not much news yet, but. I do think we have to appreciate the fact that as dire as things seem now, there is also a chance that this specific situation where the Eagles are struggling and they are barely like 1-point favorites on the road to Tampa Bay could represent their best chance to win a Super Bowl in the next, 3-4 years, right? Because with Jalen Hurts' contract and this group of veterans who are either retiring or moving on, most likely anytime soon. Who knows what the next few years have in store? There's no guarantee they're going to be back in the playoffs or even in a situation where all they're road favorites, right? So with that in mind, given how everything has gone over the past 6 weeks, we want to talk about like who has a chance here to rewrite the script, rewrite the narrative of the way that we think about them. And obviously, if they do lose this game, this is the lasting impression heading into the offseason. If they win this game, then we'll remember this game. It's a playoff game. It matters. How are you sort of feeling about like the possibility of this team being able to turn things around? It's hard to not think about what we've seen the last 2 weeks, especially.
Yeah, it's impossible to divorce what we saw these past 2 weeks because this is who they are right now, and they have to prove otherwise. I do think it's a game they could win. While I agree with you that there is an opportunity here because it's not a season where there's such high play from quarterbacks around the league that you if you run into this guy, it's trouble between injuries and performance issues with different teams. That's not the case this year. So in theory, it's more open than it's ever been. But I feel less confident that the Eagles can make a run this year because I'd be worried about them in round 2 against San Francisco or against Dallas. However, if there are upsets in round 1, I do think a path could open up for the Eagles to make the NFC Championship game. And then you have one game and anything could happen, right? So
you get a little Uncle Mo on your side.
Exactly. Who knows? Yeah. I saw on Twitter yesterday Ron Jaworski's picks, and Ron Jaworski had, I think it was, based on his picks, the Eagles would go to Detroit in round 2, which I actually think would be like a fine matchup for the Eagles, right? I think Eagles fans would take going to Detroit in round 2. So there's a handful of situations like we talked about on yesterday's show that makes me think that if they get past Tampa Bay and they avoid San Francisco, you don't want to see San Francisco with San Francisco getting extended rest out there. You're on a short week. That would be problematic. But I think you have a better chance of beating San Francisco in the championship game than you do in round 2. From what
about the rust factor?
I'm not a big rust factor guy. I know, Tennessee lost when they were the 1 seed 2 years ago. A.J. Brown's last year there. But I'm not.
Eagles played better in the NFC Championship than they did in the second round against the Giants last year.
Sure. Look, there might be validity there. I just think that's a matchup problem for the Eagles. And
no doubt about it. I mean,
yeah. So
the offense is specifically designed to, even at their best, take advantage of them. And boy, are they not at their best.
Yeah. So based on that, no,
Christian Ellis is not walking through that door.
I would not feel great about the Eagles getting off the plane in the middle of the night from Tampa Bay, and then you have 24 hours to put a game plan together against the 49ers. Now, presumably, they're doing some advanced scouting, not the main part of the coaching staff, but quality control and whatnot. But
do you think they're spending their most time advanced scouting on Detroit? They don't need to advanced scout Dallas. They played Dallas twice.
Sure.
San Francisco, maybe.
Yeah, I think San Francisco.
Okay.
I would imagine trying to figure out like a plan for San Francisco would be the approach, certain tendencies, things of that nature. But
probably like germ warfare being one of their best plans.
Trying to figure out that joke.
I mean, it seems like their best hope. Send somebody who's sick to cough around the building.
Look, it's one game. You never know what could happen.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that to answer your question, I'm not ruling out a run here because I do think if they get past Tampa Bay, which they're favored to do, it's not a given, but they're favored to do. These other matchups this week are such that I think there's a chance they can avoid San Francisco. I'm going to be watching those Sunday games. Both NFC games are on Sunday. Okay, the AFC games are on Saturday. Both NFC games are on Sunday, and it's done that way because that way you don't have a team playing on the short week.
Right.
You know, so you know the two Saturday games. There'd be a Saturday AFC game. In other words.
Right.
So that's a roundabout way of saying that I think that if the Eagles can avoid the 49ers, there's a chance they can make a run. But if they play the 49ers in round 2, I think it ends there.
It's funny. It's Rich Hoffman wrote about this in his newsletter, which I hope everybody is reading. Everybody should be reading. Like the life cycle of the Eagles fan these days. It's like Monday, like, oh my God, fire everybody. Tuesday, probably still fire everybody. Yeah. Wednesday, like, okay, I could talk myself. Like, this team is so talented, you know. If they could just put it together, they could beat anybody. And you're ramping yourself up as the week goes on, and then like 3 plays into the game on Sunday, you're like, what was I thinking? They stink. So it may go that way again.
No, you're right, and I think to the college football playoff argument, when I didn't buy this argument, but when they're putting it together, they're like, who would you least want to face, right? And I imagine Tampa Bay probably didn't want to see the Eagles, even as poorly as the Eagles are playing. I could be wrong there, but the Eagles are a talented team that's beaten good
given
teams.
Their choices, they would certainly rather face the Eagles than the Cowboys.
True. Okay, given that, I just meant there are teams you.
I think I would rather see the Eagles than the Packers or the Rams.
Interesting, because you believe in momentum.
No, it's not momentum.
You believe this is who they are. You believe the way they're playing.
Yeah, it's not like
now.
They're coming off a bad loss. I mean, They have, like, if you just look at the last month of the season, they've been a very bad team.
Well,
the last 4 games, they're 1-3.
I can't dispute that.
Against
not just
bad
a bad
teams,
like a horrible team.
Yeah, they've been one of the worst teams in football.
One of the worst teams in football, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And I see in the chat, Matt H says, "I'm not talking myself into this team anymore." Matt H, I'm not talking you into this team anymore either. They need to show
himself into it though.
They need to show it. I just when I watch
you
that
look at it, you do that on paper. If we were doing the roster draft again, we'd probably pick a lot of Eagles.
When I watched that Week 3 game, and I understand
it's a lifetime ago.
Yeah, but it is the same rosters for the most part. I don't think Justin Evans and Terrell Edmonds are the difference between.
Who knew? I think we know who was the key, Christian Ellis. But
did Christian Ellis play defense that game?
No, he didn't need to. It was the pure force of personality.
I wonder if Christian Ellis knows this bit now.
It's not a bit.
No, but we talked about this.
They were one of the
best
teams in the league with him on the roster, and they've been one of the worst teams in the league with him off of it.
Yeah, one of my favorite Wolf stands you did was the interview with Elijah Riley.
Phone interview. COVID times, not, it's a rare Wolf stand that was not in person.
Still, the idea that Elijah Riley is this nice, hardworking guy, went to the Army, and thinks that he has someone here who just thinks he's a good football player. And
I do think he was a good
no,
football
but I'm saying
player.
little does he know that he is a camp crush of great tradition.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what a call that was. Still he's still in the NFL on an active roster.
That is true. You do know how to pick them. Get a good text?
That's exactly right. I got an update from daycare.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh, good.
Late arrival today?
We're probably moving off of Jane's nap. Unfortunately, the bedtime the last week or so has been just a nightmare. She will not go to sleep, and so it's unfortunately, as much as we would like to keep the nap, we probably got to cut it loose.
I think it's a good thing.
I mean, I hope it turns out to be good.
Yeah, naps are unproductive, so.
You are ridiculous. And also, from our perspective, naps are very productive. It is actually on the weekend your only chance to be productive when the 3-year-old is napping.
It was meant to be a joke.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Through this prism, Zach, we'll save the ad read for a sec. Let's do one round of picks first.
Okay.
Who do you think has, and this is not predicting who is going to change, but who has the chance to really change what we think about them based on how this game goes the most?
Well, this is the obvious answer. It's low-hanging fruit, but it's Nick Sirianni. And the reason is Nick Sirianni is getting heat right now that is unlike anything I've seen for a coach in this position. And rightfully so with the way they're collapsing. I do think that there is a degree of equity that needs to be taken into account. But look, you were on it before anyone else. And I give you credit. I definitely did not give you credit then. I give you credit now because
I don't need credit. It's not about me.
Because you acknowledge that if this goes south, could we be having this conversation? Well, we had that conversation, and I even said on the show, and I saw Rich in his newsletter remark like that. I said, how ridiculous is this? And when you look at someone with that record over 3 years, it does seem ridiculous.
It does.
But it's hard to put your finger on what has happened during this past month. And if they go out and collapse in the postseason, then what does that say about the way this team is responding to their coach, given all this conversation that was going on? Like the Cardinals game, you can't explain. Last week, you can say, all right, it's week 18. They're just trying to get to the playoffs at that point. Now you're in the playoffs. It's win and go home. There's like literally no excuse for coming out flat, for coming out unmotivated, for coming out unresponsive. So now the flip side is if they win this game, then suddenly,
if they come out and are buttoned up,
yes.
If they have a plan for the blitz, they have a special game plan. Nick has put together a really good offensive game plan, and the guys are trying on defense and tackling well and have come out like with their T's crossed and I's dotted, then yes, that will change what we think, and I think that will save that there won't even be a conversation, even if they get blown out in San Francisco. Okay, he still has it in him. If they come out and play like they did last week, and they don't have answers for Todd Bowles' pressure plan, and they look lost, and the defense is as bad as it's been the last 2 weeks, then I think it's going to be really hard to make the strong case that he deserves to lead this team forward. Not like irregardless, can't be saying that. Not even taking into account the unbelievable track record he has had over the course of 3 years.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I
and there's obviously a very wide middle in there.
I didn't think I would say that. That's why this game's almost a referendum on him. And look, it comes with being the head coach. As unfair as it might seem, it comes with being the head coach. There's no fair or unfair. It's fair when you're in this type of collapse and you're the head coach of the team and you're literally responsible for keeping this from happening. Now you're in a postseason game, a very winnable postseason game. It's not like they drew Dallas or San Francisco in the first round. A game against Tampa Bay, a team that is a middling team, 9-8, a team that
just like them,
a team that does not have an elite quarterback, a team that personnel-wise you should be superior than. I think 32 of 32 teams would take the Eagles roster over the Bucs roster right now. So based on that, yeah, you need to respond. And the way the players respond to you should speak to it should speak volumes to Jeffrey Lurie. It should speak volumes to the fan base. Like you said, if they come out, they solve these problems, they look good, they look like they're turning this thing around, then the PHLY show, the stories on Tuesday morning, talk radio on Tuesday morning, social media, the message boards, the national shows.
Nicky's got his groove back.
Yes, the conversation will rightfully change. It's in Nick's hands. As Jason Kelsey says, you control the narrative. Okay? They control the narrative. They'll write the stories. It's not the big bad media here. They control the stories.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think you're right to take him first. This is in some ways it feels like the Nick Sirianni game. I mean, I could make a case for Patricia here. And
I mean, is your opinion really changing on Patricia?
That's the thing. Like, if he comes out and it's like this unbelievable game plan, it changes a little bit. But there's such a longer track record that it doesn't change a ton. This is it doesn't feel like first round pick quality, but I think there is an interesting state here for Darius Slay.
Okay, he's on my list, so that's a good one.
Because right now, heading into the offseason, the narrative is, and I think correctly, that the Eagles made their bet on bringing back both of these aging corners, and they have both taken a significant step back. James Bradbury more so than Darius Slay. But if Darius Slay comes back and is healthy for this game and shuts down Mike Evans and has like a vintage Slay game, not only does that make you feel a little bit better about him next year, because he is going to be here next year. Yes. Bradbury is going to be a conversation that they may have to eat a lot of money, but he's going to be here next year. You feel a little bit better about the general state of the secondary if that's the case. And also you can make the case, you can sort of convince yourself that that was part of what was wrong with the defense the last month, is that they didn't have Darius Slay, right? I think that's a little bit of a stretch, but if he comes back and has like a vintage game, then I think we feel better just in general about the state of, if not the defense, a little bit more about the secondary.
It's a good point. And the way I would add to that is when we talked about how this season could go bad this year before the season, one thing I said is they had remarkable injury luck last year. What if the injury luck catches up to them? And
the thing is, very good injury
that's luck, what I'm saying. This has happened while they've actually been fairly healthy. The only key players, like major players that they've missed for a relatively extended period, was Dallas Goedert and Darius Slay. Now you can put Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean played
Maddox.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. But Slay and Goddard are like blue chip guys for them, and so this collapse has corresponded with Slay being out of the lineup. So perhaps Slay gives you a stabilizing force at corner that changes your coverage scheme, that changes the way you call things, that just gives a peace of mind on the field. He's a really tough assignment this week, right? He's going to see Mike Evans for part of this game. So, yeah, I would agree with you. Darius Slay is a good one.
All right. You agree with me because it's in your wheelhouse? I've done better than that. That's
yes.
Great.
Yeah, let me tell you guys about Wheelhouse here.
Hope their power is working.
Definitely hope their power is working because they're open at 11 a.m. most days, right? Well, 7 days a week, year round. And I was actually going through with my.
You know what, Zach? I could have teed you up better for this. I could have told you.
No, I could have had this up, but you know what? I don't have to read from something because the best endorsement that I could give is that I am a customer at Wheelhouse, and the reason I'm a customer is because it is your go-to cards and collectible spot in the Delaware Valley. They have locations in Wayne and Westchester. I am wearing actually underneath here, a shirt that I got at Shy Vintage Sports. And where did I get that? At Wheelhouse, because I shop at Wheelhouse myself.
This could be our chance to dip into nudity if you want to show us the undershirt.
No, that's okay. It would.
Okay.
It's a.
I mean, the sponsors would like it.
I'm telling you, I'm wearing one. I don't want to. I don't want to lift up the shirt. But the motto at Wheelhouse is cards and community, because love of sports unites us all. They carry all of your favorite card brands like Topps, Chrome Baseball, and Mosaic Football, as well as t-shirts, hats, and hoodies from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 brand, Junk Food, Starter, and Shy Vintage Sports, including the shirt that I'm wearing right now underneath this hoodie. Looking to grade your sports card collection? Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host tons of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. Stop into either of their stores, Wayne or Westchester, 7 days a week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY. Get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Also, be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards.
Just like everybody knows, Zach is a Wheelhouse man. Everybody knows I'm a Rocket Money man. Use Rocket Money, saves me money, can save you money too. It's going to go through all your list of subscriptions. We've all got subscriptions these days. Do you have duplicatives? Do you have ones that you're paying for that you don't even remember you're paying for, that you're not using anymore? Rocket Money will hook you up to keep track of all of your spending and make you save some money. Rocket Money, as you know, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. They will even get you a refund for the last couple months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. It's not only a money saver, it's a time saver. If you need to cancel something, they will do it for you. Rocket Money, and as we all know, time is money, Zach. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. So stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY. rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
And one quick thing I would like to add is that Shy Vintage Sports and FOCO are not the only places to go to get gear.
Heyo.
Also, make sure you go to PHLYlocker.com for all the great PHLY gear. And the reason I'm bringing this up particularly today is because we got new hoodies up there
New merch, baby.
on the site. If you like some of our Eagles merch, we actually have PHLY football hoodies now. And in addition to that, by the way, there are great hats of all different kinds. They have the dad hats that I tend to wear, but they also have those golf hats with the what's that string in the front? That's pretty stylish now.
Okay.
They have the flat brim hats that are popular.
Okay.
So for all different styles, and you can check that out on PHLY.
You like a hat with no logo. You like a plain hat.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be wearing one with the PHLY logo. But yeah, okay. I do like the nondescript look. I don't like logos in general. Well, I just don't like wearing logos in general. Yes.
I'm trying to unpack that as a man who's generally so pro business and so like brand loyal to shun logos, as I feel like,
even though I got this Nike logo right here. It's a nice bomber jacket. What can I say? Yeah. But
you're like a walking Rob Lowe, the NFL.
what wearing the shield?
Yeah.
I like to be nondescript in the like solid stuff, basically.
That's why
you're trying to unpack it. There's nothing. I mean,
yeah. Right. We've got a lot to talk. We don't need to.
Yeah, exactly.
Bears have fired Luke Getsy.
That will fix it.
I mean, they were playing pretty well second half of the season.
You're an Eberflus guy, huh?
I am not an Eberflus guy. All right, let's move on with this draft. You're up next. I feel like we don't need to go too deep here because we also want to go back at the midseason stock draft. Maybe 3 rounds. We'll see.
All right. Well, so this is also low hanging fruit, but Jalen Hurts. And the reason I say Jalen Hurts is because
I don't know if. Well, go ahead. I'll let you talk.
Yeah. Look, he's a franchise quarterback. When things aren't going, like he hasn't been getting a lot of blame during this slide here, and he actually has been playing fairly decently, right, outside of the Giants game when no one seemed to play well. But
we'll get to this because I'm actually. Yeah. It was an interesting exercise. He has been much worse in the second half of the season.
It was the first. Yeah. But he's the franchise quarterback. He's the one who he rises all tides, right? So he's the sets the temperature in the room, like he says. And when you set the temperature and you lose 5 of 6. And you lose a playoff game against a team that you should beat when you're favored, yeah, some of that goes to the quarterback for sure. That cannot, and especially when He has a strong offensive line in front of him, right? They were rated today by Pro Football Focus as the #1 offensive line in the NFL. Jordan Mailata is the top offensive tackle. One could debate Pro Football Focus, but it's not as if...
Yeah, I mean, some guy on the street has them rated as the 3rd, so
Okay.
we can
Okay.
equally valuable.
If they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith back this week, he's 2 of the best wide receivers in the league, maybe the best wide receiver tandem. You can't keep blaming play calling. You can't keep blaming all. Sometimes the quarterback needs to be the difference, right? And you're gonna laugh when I say this. I saw a trailer for The Dynasty, which is a miniseries coming out about the Patriots. And and do you know where I'm going with this?
I don't know where you're going with it, but
Danny Amendola had a quote in there.
Okay.
Okay.
First interview first player interview of mine as an intern for the Philadelphia Eagles website.
How was it?
It was good. I think you were there that day.
Was I? Okay.
It might have been.
I was with the Washington Post and I went up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you were like, "Who's this guy who used to work for the?" Yeah.
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 I didn't know who you were.
Did I introduce myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Was I polite?
You were very Zach, if I remember.
Okay.
You were nice. You had a firm handshake, and
Thank you. Yeah.
you said, "Listen to CMAC."
That's sound advice then and now.
Yes.
Yeah. So in any event, Danny Amendola said, "We worked for Bill. We played for Tom." I'm going to repeat that. We worked for Bill, but we played for Tom.
That.
Kirk Cousins tweeted yesterday, "That's the greatest compliment a quarterback can receive." And so I framed this as...
Do you have tweet alerts for Kirk Cousins?
No. I saw a national reporter share that.
Okay.
So that's way of saying Nick's getting all the heat. Jalen is part of this too. Jalen's the most important person in the franchise. More important than the coach.
Yes.
I mean, Howie might not. He's more important than the GM. Jalen's this is built around Jalen right now. So I think that he needs to raise the level of play here going forward, for sure.
Yeah, I think my initial hesitation is that, whether if he has a bad game, he's still going to be the face of the franchise. He's still going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And we're still going to think of him as a good quarterback, right? But I do think there's something to, like, ooh, nice and windy going on. Got a little rattle going on in the building.
Let's keep the power on.
I was once on.
And
I
no
was,
leaks.
I was once live on the Eagles website during that East Coast earthquake,
I remember that.
and like you could see everything shaking, and they can close the show with aplomb.
You know where I was that day?
Probably the Giants facility.
I was at a press conference for the introduction of MetLife Stadium.
Wow, I nailed it.
Yes. It was an August day.
One of the
correct?
top 5 days of your life.
It was an August day.
You
correct?
love that place. But if we think of Jalen Hurts as part of the Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, tier of quarterbacks, which we thought last year, I think he has played a dip below that this year. But if you think of any of those guys, no matter how terrible a season their team had, if you were just looking from the outside and saying that quarterback is going on the road to play Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Bucs, they should win that game.
Yes.
And
exactly.
so I think there is something to that. I think being so close to it, we may excuse if he doesn't play well on everything that's going on around him. But you're right. He is the force of personality on that team. He is all about big games. He needs to play well.
And just to build on that, you were like on Stafford's road to the Super Bowl. You recall he beat Tom Brady and he beat Joe Burrow, right? You kind of go through some of these quarterback versus quarterback matchups, even though the quarterbacks aren't playing against each other. On Hurts' road to the Super Bowl last year, he beat Daniel Jones, and then Brock Purdy got knocked out of the game. And then in the Super Bowl, Jalen played amazing. Probably the best game we've ever seen him play.
Yeah.
But they didn't win that game, right? So it's not as if he outdueled Patrick Mahomes. So yeah. So I'm saying if you lose to Baker Mayfield and the Bucs, you have to say you're the superior quarterback. You need to raise your team's level of play in this game.
I'm going to go with a defensive player who we have talked a lot about. I think Jalen Carter.
Okay.
has still been good down the stretch, right? But he has fizzled a little bit. He was a dynamo in the first half of the season.
especially against Tampa.
And it looked like, oh my God, the Eagles got this guy who, like, he might be the next Aaron Donald.
Yep.
And rookie defensive tackles, we talked about this for a long time. There is not a great track record of immediate production. And so he has had a very good season, but he has slowed as the season has come on. If he doesn't do much in this game, I think that's fine. We'll still project him to have a nice jump in year 2, become the best player on the defense, and that's good. But if he comes out in this game and has a monster game, then we're like, okay, like,
yes,
we've seen it. He can be a big time player in big time games too. He can flip that switch, and it also makes you just feel better about the state of the defense, which right now I think we're going to be feeling pretty dire about heading into next season.
I agree with you there. That's a good one there, especially because of the way he played against Tampa. So I'm going to stay on the defense for mine.
You're going to go with your boy?
I'm going to go with Josh Sweat. And the reason...
Keeping the streak alive of every draft we have, you back Josh Sweat.
So Josh Sweat has not been productive during this backstretch of the schedule.
No doubt.
He has not had a sack since that Dallas win before the bye. Okay? So 8 games here without a sack. He was on a really good pace before that. Last year, going into the postseason, he had that scary neck injury. He just returned. The year before that, he had this freak injury before the Tampa game.
He didn't get to play in that game.
And he missed it down there in Tampa. So here he is now. He's healthy. Okay? He hasn't had the impact in games that they need him to have. And if he goes 9 games without a sack to close the season, that's discouraging. And you expect better from him based on the role he has on the team, the salary he's getting paid, the snaps that he's playing this season. And it just makes you wonder, is he an elite player? Is he a good player or is he an elite player? And there have been thoughts, and I've said this, okay, so I will wear it, that he could take that jump. He's gotten better every season. And then this season, it regressed.
Yeah.
And it looked through those first 8 games like it was going to be even better. Like this was another year with double-digit sacks, even more. So, yeah.
And not only has he not hit that level, he's been playing so many more snaps. And so you can say that those two things are connected, but like on an efficiency basis, on a per rush basis, he has been way worse.
Yep. So he's someone who I am obviously clearly watching this week.
Okay, good one. I don't really know where to go with the last one. You can make a case for Big Dom if he comes back. They will go to the Super Bowl. That's a good one. We know that he's been the glue all along.
And the camera's gonna be is gonna be finding him.
Yes, that's right. I think you could make a good case for Brian Johnson for the same reasons we talked about Nick from the offensive design standpoint. If they put together a great game plan, that will reflect well on him. The rest of the guys on defense, it's like, what is really up for grabs?
I got a guy on defense that I'm going with if you don't use him.
Well, this is the last pick.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going 4.
I think I said 3 because we got to go.
Gotcha. Okay.
To the other stuff. I don't know. I'm stumped. Who's your guy on defense?
I was going to say Kevin Byard.
Okay.
Kevin Byard has been... This has looked more like the...
I can't imagine anything Kevin Byard does in this game is going to... I'm going to remember it a week from now.
Well, I mean, we all remember Golden Tate.
Like 3 pick sixes.
Yeah. Golden Tate against Chicago.
Yeah, okay.
He catches that touchdown, and Chris Collinsworth on the call says the trade's worth it for Howie Roseman, right? Because he catches that touchdown against Chicago that essentially wins them the game there. What if Kevin Byard has a huge pick 6 here? What if Kevin Byard makes the plays that we were talking about as a possibility when the Eagles traded for him?
Yeah. It's not bad. I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert.
Okay.
Because I feel like Dallas Goedert has been not absent, but not as big of a part of the offense as we all expected and as I think the Eagles believe him to be. And if we go into the offseason with another fizzling game from him, and he's going to be, like 29 years old next year? Like, you're thinking, okay, the Eagles need to replace Dallas Goedert sooner than later. He's already 29. like this could be the end of Dallas Goedert as like the number 3 guy.
Yeah.
Whereas if he has a big game, you think, okay, I mean, now we probably shouldn't overvalue one game here, but I think there's an opportunity for him to make us feel better about it.
A second-round pick spent on Jatavian Sanders or someone like that?
Sure. I want you to do that, but like make up a name because I will not know.
Jatavian Sanders is a tight end on Texas.
Well, I assumed he was a tight end.
Yeah, and the number 1 tight end in the draft is Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is going to be a top 10 pick.
Brock Berlin.
Brock Bowers is the best tight end since Kyle Pitts. So
okay, so he too will make no impact at all in the NFL level.
Well, Kyle Pitts had a great first year. And he had an injury his second year that I think affected him this year. But we don't need to go down the rabbit hole.
Have you put in your name for the Falcons head coaching job?
I haven't put in my name. Are you able to apply for a head coaching job?
You should.
Like, are those on LinkedIn and you can send?
You know what? I saw that somebody was sending around. There was the University of Penn offensive coordinator position was open.
Oh, is that right?
And that was listed on like the job website.
Yeah, I'd be fascinated if like NFL teams take.
Well, obviously they're not going to take applications, but
I would love to give an opening press conference.
You should put some feelers out there.
I would love to give an opening press conference. I would nail it. But yeah, I would nail it.
What would you say?
I mean, we're
going to be palpable. We're going to be physical. We're going to be multiple.
No, let's save this for post. No, I wouldn't give cliches. I would give explanations. But let's save this for post playoffs because I think we can do a good press conference then.
All right. Well, if you want to buy tickets to Zach's opening press conference, you can go to Game Time. They won't have it, but you can go to Game Time anyway. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. They've got flash deals on last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, images of seat views, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and more. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, just 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. All right, Zach, before the show today, I went back and re-listened to our 2 episodes of stock drafts.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
What speed I was listening to you listen?
Well, that was on purpose so that I could get through it quickly. That was a YouTube 1.75 or 2.0.
Can you decipher what they're saying?
I was just trying to figure out who we drafted. I didn't need to listen to the whole episode.
But you told me you listen
usually, well, it depends.
It
depends on the podcast.
Yeah,
some podcasts I go like 1.6.
Oh,
some
I can't go above 1.5.
If it's more of like if it's more of a comedy podcast, I'll go more like 1.2. Then it feels like it's just the normal conversation. If I'm just trying to like download information into my brain, I go 1.6.
The pod I listened to today, I listened to at 1.5, and I found myself going back and trying to like decipher some of the points that I might have missed.
Yeah. So it's a tough balance, you know.
Yeah.
You're always in search of productivity.
Yeah.
And efficiency.
That's part of what the podcast was about. So
great. Some rich guy named Bob, probably.
It was his name was Michael. And it was
Michael Eisner.
No, but similar vein. It was Michael Ovitz. Invest with the best with Michael Ovitz. Okay. So it was a good one. I highly recommend it.
Well, I will not be listening to it, but thank you for the recommendations. All right, on offense, let's go through this because I think this is a good way to sort of look back at how things have played out relative to what our expectations were. This chair keeps dipping a little bit.
Found it to be my height.
Here we go. All right. You had the first pick on the offensive draft, and you made the guy who we all thought seemed to be like the right pick, Devontae Smith. First half of the season, 59 yards per game. Second half of the season, 76 yards per game.
Nailed it.
I think he got that one. I would say just feel-wise, it certainly feels like he was a bigger part of the offense second half of the season. Good job by you. My first pick, Jack Stoll up. I was getting a little bit too cute here. No doubt about that. Trying to play the game instead of the narrative. But now this was in the context of Dallas Goedert had just gotten hurt. First half of the season, Jack Stoll had 2 catches for 10 yards. Second half of the season, 3 catches for 28 yards. So that's a hit, but it's not one that I feel great about. There you go.
150% increase.
And that's right. You wouldn't have known that unless you listened to Invest with the Best. You had DeAndre Swift up. I feel like this is a tough case to make. Now, first half of the season, 68 yards per game from the ground, 4.5 yards per rush. Not too far off second half of the season, 62 yards per game and 4.6 yards per carry.
He stayed healthy.
I don't know that I would say feel-wise, his stock rose.
I would agree.
In the second half of the season, but I also don't think that it was a significant drop-off.
No, and I think there was concern that he was wearing down.
Yes.
That he would wear down, and that did not occur.
Yeah, I think that's... I mean, I wouldn't give you the point there, but I think it was...
I'll take a push on that one. That's on an L.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's a 40-degree day, as they say on the wire.
This was a good pick by me. Not a fun one, but I said A.J. Brown down. He was playing at such an unbelievable production rate. 111 yards per game first half of the season, down to 56 yards per game second half of the season. There's no doubt that he became less dynamic as the offense became less dynamic. We move on. You had Jordan Mailata down. I don't know how I feel about that one. Now, the only guy on the team who played 100% of the snaps on offense over the course of the season, got to give him credit for that.
And Pro Football Focus has him rated as the #1 offensive tackle in the league. So I will take the L on that one.
Okay. Now, to be fair, Brandon Thorne did have the Eagles as the best offensive line heading into the playoffs.
And you respect
actually
Brandon
knows
Thorne's
what he's talking about. Yes. So
jeez, PFF catching more strays.
That's not a stray.
That's a direct shot.
I'm looking at the camera. That is right between the eyes. I had Rashad Penny up. Now, production-wise, he went from 3 carries for 9 yards to 8 carries for 24 yards. But I cannot, in good conscience, take the win here, even if he got more carries. I think as the season went on and he continued to toil in the inactives list, I think we all understood that, what is going on here? Why has he been on the team all season?
Were you expecting a swift regression? Was that the reason?
I think I just thought that they were going to play him at he was going to be part of the real offense for once and not just the Week 18 throwaway. So I will take a loss there. You had Cam Jurgens up because this was, remember, the point in time when the running game was not as good without him. He came back. I feel like that's about a steady for Cam Jurgens.
That wind was intense.
Oh, well, listen, we're on the top floor. We're in the corner. We're getting hit.
Yes.
I had Olamide Zaccheaus up. Bad one here. He had 6 catches for 87 yards the first half of the season, 4 catches for 77 yards the second half of the season, played about 100 fewer snaps in the second half of the season. I find this one still a little bit confounding. I don't understand why he didn't get more opportunities. He feels like the best option of those other 3 guys, but I don't know what I don't know.
They like themselves some Julio Jones.
Well, that goes to your next pick because Mr. On the Come, you had Julio Jones up, went from 2 catches for 11 yards to 9 catches for 63 yards.
And how many touchdowns?
2.
2.
If I'm going to give myself Jack Stoll, I got to give you Julio Jones. I think we've all been not very impressed with Julio Jones. But
speak for yourself.
What has impressed you about Julio Jones?
What has impressed me about Julio Jones? I mean, the locker room figure that he is. The reverence with which his teammates speak about him.
Great. What does that have to do with his production?
And the season's he had that 2 touchdown game.
Okay.
And you never know what can happen here in the playoffs. Going back to Tampa,
3 touchdown game, or he had 3 touchdowns on the season rather.
Yeah,
so,
2 in that game.
Yes.
He had 1 against Washington, and then he had 2 against Arizona.
Yes. I took Jalen Hurts up. Now this was a miss. At the time, he was playing well, but I thought that maybe the turnover regression would come in a positive way. The numbers are pretty stark here, and I think it paints a picture that is not exactly how I had thought about the second half of the season. First half of the year, 68.9% completion percentage. Lolita. Second half of the season, 60.9% completion percentage, so dropped significantly there. 7.7 yards per attempt to 6.5 yards per attempt. 15 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. And then in the second half of the season, 8 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. EPA per dropback went from 0.11, which is in like the 6th or 7th in the league area if it were to be over the course of the season, down to 0.01, which is all the way down to like 18th over the course of the season. He also he took a fewer sacks, but generally speaking, like the trouble issues that you thought he was having didn't get better, and the things he was doing well, like it's part of the reason like the completion percentage over expected, that stuff dropped down a little bit. Some of those things that were maybe a little bit fluky, and obviously he has not protected the ball well enough.
It's a good point. And you would expect, like we said about him having something to prove, that when things went bad, he would play even better. And I thought he played well against Arizona. I thought he played well against the first game against the Giants. He played barely had any completion. Seattle was the game that I put on him. Seattle was as poorly as he's played in a long time here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Your last one on offense, Zach, was Jason Kelce down. How do you feel about that?
I think that was just because he's so good all the time. I don't think Jason Kelce's been down. No,
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
That was coming off of his appearance on the Amazon Prime broadcast. I think you were thinking he was a little overexposed, maybe.
I don't think Jason Kelce's overexposed. I think Jason Kelce's properly exposed. Frankly, he could be. I mean, anytime. I think Jason Kelce's value added.
That ESPN body issue.
I think Jason Kelce's value added to any production that he's on.
I agree.
So no, some people who are overexposed are people who are there but that don't bring anything to the table. I think Jason Kelce brings something to the table whenever he's on.
Okay.
Who would be someone who you think is overexposed?
Pat McAfee.
Okay. Like I would say, I say this
the guy at the guy who went swimming in the Bass Pro Shops pool.
Okay. Like I think Travis might be more overexposed than Jason.
Wow.
Right? Like I don't find Travis to be as enlightening in these interviews or on the pod as Jason is.
Shots fired. Here come the Swifties.
Oh, yeah, actually, I should be careful. My daughter is a Swiftie. It was her birthday yesterday, and we listened on the whole way to dinner and back to the different Taylor Swift songs.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad she got that treat.
Yeah.
Okay. Home run here for me. I had Marcus Mariota down. Didn't play in the first half of the season. Came in through an ugly interception. So yes. I'm going to take a win there. On the defensive side of the ball, I took Fletcher Cox's advice and went Reed Blankenship up. I don't know that I can in good conscience say he went up. I think it was more of a leveling, not unlike DeAndre Swift there. He also missed some time. So I think, how do you feel about Reed Blankenship heading into next year?
Oh, I would feel good about him. I think he's your starting safety for sure, but he's missed time consistently throughout the season. Like he's missed time on separate occasions. He's had 2 concussions, and he has this injury now that, even though these are all separate, they certainly need to work on their safety depth, especially knowing Sidney Brown is coming back from injury either early in the season or midseason.
Yeah.
Your first callback to yesterday's show.
Good job.
Way to no sell.
Your first pick, very on brand. You went Derek Barnett down. Now
they cut him.
Yeah, and I made the case like, how could he get even lower? And they cut him. So you get that. However, it is also important to point out, since going to Houston, he has been playing well. He has 2.5 sacks for the Houston Texans over the last 6 games, more than any Eagles edge rusher. So shout out to Derek Barnett. In the context of the Eagles, though, I will give you the win there.
Also, shout out to Bo and me on this one, because when you see the Houston Texans' success, man, we called it with D'Amico.
Handsome man. Power of attractiveness.
Terrific leader. Great leadership attributes. The great football mind can scheme and connect and motivate all in one. So, yeah.
Also does have a unbelievable rookie quarterback, to be fair.
Oh, sure. But I think D'Amico deserves credit there.
I mean, he certainly deserves credit. It's not like he, took a ragtag defense-led group necessarily. I think the offense has a lot to do with that. I went Nolan Smith up. I mean, I guess he's played more. That was the impetus behind that, just that he had to play more. But I don't feel like he's done much with that opportunity. I think that's actually, I don't even know if I can take that.
Yeah, I will take the L on Nolan Smith too.
So far.
Now I nailed it that they would take him in the first round, but that has not worked the way they anticipated.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be tough to hit an up on the defensive side of the ball. You had a great call here. Nicholas Morrow down. Now, remember, this is right after Nakobe Dean had been lost for the season. You knew that Morrow was going to play more. You were saying he had been playing well in his bit role, splitting time with Nakobe Dean. He would be overexposed. Absolutely right there. Good job by you.
Yeah, there's a reason he did not make the 53 out of camp.
I mean, this is one of the biggest player personnel usage mysteries to me of the entire season is how much burn Nicholas Morrow gets, how much they count on him, why he's still why they chose him over Christian Ellis, why he continues to be on the he didn't make the team. He hasn't done much with those reps. What he must be the best meeting room guy there's ever been.
Yeah, or they just like him with the green dot, calling the plays. Because
just shout it with a megaphone if that's
I'm not disputing that.
I had Zach Cunningham down. I think that counts as well. As much as they treat him like he's the best middle linebacker in football, he has also been a little bit overexposed and he missed time. I will take that one. You had Bradley Roby up. Now at this point, he only played in 2 games. They were waiting for him to come back. He had that one big primetime performance, but he also lost his job. I don't think you can necessarily take that.
When Avonte came back, yeah.
Well, when a hobbled shell of himself, Avonte came back, he went straight to inactive. I don't think you can take an up there. I think that's about level. I took Jalen Carter up. We already talked about Jalen Carter. That did not happen. You took James Bradbury up. That is a tough L. What do you think of James Bradbury heading into the offseason? You think they're going to move on? It's a significant
and they're going to eat that
pill
money
to swallow.
Yeah, I don't think so, but I think they can have him on the team, and his playing time could kind of wane as the season progresses next year. Going with Keely Ringo.
He's been a problem.
Yeah, and that's eating a lot of money. So that's when you called, when you said the league has spoken, right? If you're getting a guy who is in your building back, maybe yeah.
I had Christian Ellis up. I think that's a win. Because maybe the team released him, but it becomes clear that he was the fulcrum of everything that was happening to begin with. So that's a good one for me. You had Josh Sweat up. Tough.
What else is new?
No sacks. Yeah, exactly. I took Sidney Brown up. Now at this point, he was only playing a bit role, so I think that
I think
one
you get
counts.
the win on that.
Now, tough situation for him heading into this next season, but I think over the second half of the season that works. And then somehow. Well, I'll let you make the case here because your last pick was Sean Desai up.
Yeah, I'm taking Sean Desai with. I think I get the win on this one. Okay.
I mean, no. Here's the thing: you can't have him up and Derek Barnett down.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Because it's what the team decided or what proved to be true.
That's a fair point. But I'm just saying they were disastrous.
Yes.
After they fired Sean Desai, I've never seen an in-season move backfire more than that one. The Colts seem
crazy.
The Colts seem to have a better idea with Jeff Saturday, who had not been a coach last year.
Yeah.
Than when the Eagles went from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia. Yeah. So yeah, I made the point on the show. I put a tweet out last week about it after the show. It's usually the inverse. Usually I put the tweet out, then I make the point on the show this time, but. Sean Desai's fitness.
We should close every show with a credit scroll of just your last week of tweets.
Hey man, if it helps the PHLY brand, I'm happy to do it. Sean Desai is his fitness as a DC has never looked better than it does now.
I don't know that I totally agree with that, but certainly it looks better than it did a month ago.
Yeah, and who was your last one? Or
Sidney Brown.
Sidney Brown's
that was your last one.
By the way, I'm going to call real quick a free agent shot right now.
Okay.
Okay.
By the way, total here is 5 for me, 4 for you.
I think the Eagles are going to sign Jeremy Chin this offseason.
Okay.
He's leaving the Panthers. He basically said he wants to go to a place that's valued. He's a depressed asset at this point. That's the type of player they kind of targeted, is this former high draft pick. He was a second-round pick. He could kind of play this safety linebacker hybrid role. They can figure they can bring him in the camp. I can't imagine.
We don't even know what kind of defensive scheme they're going to be running.
No, but I can see how, that's the player famously that the Eagles were going to draft if they didn't take Jalen Hurts. So I think they signed Jeremy Chin this offseason. And I'm going to mark this date down. So
January 10th.
Yeah, January 10th. We can go back
11:01
this offseason to the January 10th show. If and when they do it.
This is the second thing we're going to put on that list with Sidney Brown plays in September.
Okay,
we'll see how it goes. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. We are back tomorrow at 10 a.m. with Sheil Kapadia. So we are looking forward to that. We will get into whatever we want to get into. So
whatever's on Bo's mind.
A little treat for the sickos as I continue to sink just this chair. Here we go.
What's it feel like to be down there?
How's the weather up there, Zach?
Yes. First time I've ever been asked that one.
We look forward to that. We're at 10 o'clock the rest of the week. On Friday, we'll have Daniz. Tomorrow, we've got Sheil. So a couple three-handers to close out the week as the Eagles prepare.
Three-handers? Oh, three-person shows.
Yeah.
Okay. Hadn't heard that expression before.
As the Eagles prepare for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For Zach and Julia, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.